start again, YouTube, with the Lamborghini Gallardo. Welcome back to the channel. Finally got a somewhat dry day here in the dead of winter. Really not driving the car a whole lot, but as always, I'm tinkering with it, even if it's small stuff, trying to make the car better. So one thing I'm going to mess with today is some of the interior stuff in the car. So for a 20-year-old car, the interior of this is in really good shape, honestly. I mean, it's got some normal wear and tear. There's a lot of some of the issues you'll find with the older Gallardos this car didn't have. It's one of the reasons I jumped all over it. You know, there's just the leather's not pulling away from the vents or anything like that. It's really, really clean. That being said, it's not perfect. Yeah, there's some minor wear here on the driver's seat bolster, things of that nature. Other than that, it's been relatively minor. Like I said, there's a couple little things I've already addressed in here. You know, these switch covers are notorious for wearing out. The other ones were all worn from fingers and whatnot in there, so I've replaced them with the aluminum covers, which were kind of a cool upgrade. One of the things that's always bothered me about the car, like I said, a lot of you guys, I'm sure, battle the same issues, these buttons getting worn. We're going to rip this all apart. I'm going to do a little bit of experimentation because I really don't know exactly what I'm doing myself, but yeah, we'll learn together. So here is our donor part. This is what I picked up, you guys. This is out of an 05 Audi A8. From what I understand, the components all the same from an 04 to an 09 Audi A8. Really similar, if not completely direct replacement to the Lamborghini Gallardo for a fraction of the price. I picked this one up for like $50. Depending on the exact condition they're in, they're all over eBay. You can find them at, you know, wrecking yards locally, $50 to $100 or so on average, kind of, like I said, depending on the exact condition that they're in. So it's, I mean, obviously it's different. I don't have heated and cooled seats. The Econ button and the Gallardo versus the setup button down here. So there are some subtle differences. This one's got this silly little silver piece down here on the bottom of the faceplate that we don't have on the Gallardo. But the real reason I bought this thing was mostly for a donor part. Like I said, I wanted to rob parts off of it. At the fan on here, there's all sorts of components in here that I can use. I'm going to rob the buttons immediately off of this thing because I think they match those window control buttons a lot better than just the plain factory black ones. This is kind of a nice little upgrade and touch. Nothing super fancy about them. As you can see, those just pop off. So I'm going to dismantle this thing, show you guys how to pull it apart. I'm going to rob that on-off button out of there. Then we're going to rip the one out of the car, dismantle that, and replace that. And yeah, it's kind of a little bit tedious and a lot of work just for an on-off button, but it bothers me that bad. And here it is, dead of winter. I've got nothing but time. So that's what we're in for. And as you guys can see, this one isn't perfect either, but it's a whole lot better than what I've got going on. There's a little nick right in here. But yeah, from a couple feet away, it'll look a whole lot better. And then I'll have spare parts, Lord willing. I won't need them, but if there's an issue arises in the future. One of the issues that is notorious with the Gallardo is if that heater control valve goes out, it can burn up the PCM in these. So, like I said, I will set this aside just in case I have other parts I might need in the future. So on second thought, before I get too involved, taking the donor controls apart, I'm going to come in here and take this one out, and we can kind of compare the two on the bench. If you've never pulled these out before, they're not too bad. I recommend putting a little bit of painter's tape down just so you don't mar anything up. I try to be patient, not get too rough or invasive. I don't want to cause more damage when I'm trying to quote-unquote improve something. So anyway, I get a couple of these plastic spoons, body panel tools, whatever you want to call them. I wouldn't get in here with a screwdriver or anything quite like that. And you're going to kind of want to get under here. And under each one of these corners in roughly this location, you've got a couple of those push pins. Just kind of pry up on it, and you'll pop those out of there. Kind of like so. Now I got to be extra careful because I've got this component up here, which is the control for the Valentine 1 radar detector. So I can't exactly lift mine up without marring it up. So I kind of got to just wiggle it out there a little bit, and then you come up with it. And I can just set mine off to the side here. And I got that port out of the way. Apologize in advance, my lighting inside the car here isn't the greatest. Then once you got that out of the way, you can get your hand under here, and you've got a couple of those push clips right here, and you got two right about in here. So I can kind of get right behind there, pull on it gently, and just kind of push on the back of those little push clips. And this piece will just pop right out from the bottom side out. And I just kind of gently roll it right on out of there. There's enough give that it will let go without having to pull anything else apart for me. In here, this is a T20 Torx after all, not a hex bit. We'll get those out of here and we'll see how much that loosens this thing up. So it's definitely loose, guys. Unfortunately, I can't get my fat fingers back there to unplug things. That's about all the wiggle room I got. I don't want to yank on any wire, so I'm going to have to dig a tad deeper. This part might be a little bit different for those of you that got the factory radio. Obviously, I've got the aftermarket. I've just made my own carbon fiber surround to flush mount this out of some sheet carbon, so I can get in here and pull things out of the way and hopefully get in there a little bit more, unless you've got ET fingers. Now with that surround out of the way, I'm able to pull this up there now and get my fat hand back there and get this thing unplugged, get it out here on the bench where we can get a better look at it. Yeah, and once everything's disconnected, we can just pull it right on out of there. These here are all the connections I wasn't able to get back there. Probably can't even get my camera on. It's a little clip on the back side of them. You can kind of get your finger down on the back, release that, pull them straight up, and you'll get all of them popped off. We got one. Technically, there's 6 of them there, 5 of that style, and then this one here. All right, guys, now we get a much better look at it now that we got them out of the car, out here in the light on the bench. And you can tell they're super similar. Unfortunately, they are not identical. I don't know enough about these electrical components to know exactly what's what, just what I can visually compare. All these look the same. Unfortunately, this plug here, you can see is different. The Lamborghini one has the male spades in there. This has some female, smaller spade ports there. So I don't know if it would behoove me to plug this in and even see what it would do or not at that point. But it's really not the reason I purchased it. I was hoping maybe to see if it would work, shed some light for some of you other guys. Based off of that, I'm going to guess it may not. That being said, it should still work for what I need it for, which was simply to rob parts off of it. So I'm going to take the knobs and that on-off button. Other than that, the size of them, everything else looks really similar. The part numbers are super close. They just differ slightly on these. So there is the Lamborghini part number. And here is the Audi unit. Is go ahead and start disassembling this Audi unit. I've got a bunch of very, very tiny little T6 screws all around this, so I'm going to work on getting those out of there. And then as far as I can tell, the faceplate looks like it should pop off, so we'll dig into that and find out. Basically digging into here to get to the back side of that to access the on-off button out of here, this unit. Alright guys, so once you take the time, get it all apart like that, you can turn it around, get access to the back of it. Obviously here's our on-off button. You can see the centers of all of the buttons here. Just take on that, put a little bit of pressure on there, pry on it. You can kind of hear it pop right out of there. That will release that button. There are a couple little springs under there. Be mindful of those. They sit right in those little grooves. That way you don't lose these tiny little things. There they are. Not that I wouldn't have spares, but I would like to try not to lose those. The other thing I'll point out while I get this apart before I tear it into the Lamborghini unit is all the fuzz and dust and lint there on your temperature sensor. Once I get the Lamborghini apart, I'd go ahead and clean that up as well as the fan. Now, as you guys can see, I've got both units disassembled. Just going to get the on-off button out of here and swapped out, and we can just do the reverse, start reassembling. Like I said, if you're an electronics guru, there's probably a whole lot more parts on this thing than even I realize that can be swapped around. I'm not a big electronics guy. I really probably have no business diving into something like this. I'm just being patient and taking my time, and hopefully I don't cause any more damage than good. And the more I look at these components, there's a lot of real similarities. You can tell there are some differences, even on the faceplate itself. So unfortunately, I really don't see any world in which this would be a direct swap, at least not for the early years. Alright guys, though not perfect, certainly better than what I had. Got everything cleaned up. Now we're just going to do the reverse order, and I'm going to go back together with it. So for the sake of time, I'll speed that up a little bit, just like I did disassembly. I refreshed Lamborghini unit. Like I said, these knobs will look good with the window controls. The on-off button that was incredibly worn just looked super cheap. It was driving me nuts. So like I said, even though this isn't perfect, it looks 110% better than it did. So we'll get that back in the car and I'll show you the finished product. Here is the final fully installed product, all cleaned up, everything tested and working okay as it should, and definitely looks a whole lot better, more refreshed than it was. So a full replacement, the Audi unit definitely is not, but a great parts donor it is if your faceplate needs a refresh or you just have a few wore out buttons, kind of like I did. It's definitely an inexpensive way to go, and I think the little the Audi knobs are a small upgrade and touch, kind of go along with all the window switches and stuff. So anyway, hopefully you guys find this helpful. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next one.